the most shocking trade, I think, in the history of the NBA.
An absolute blockbuster mega trade.
I, in the moment here, believe is one of the most stunning trades, one of the biggest and most stunning trades in the history of the league.
Luka Doncic, for the next 10 years, is going to be the face of that Lakers organization.
He looks over at Luka and says, that's what we're going to do.
Luka Doncic being traded to the Lakers is the craziest trade we have ever seen in the world of basketball. A trade that came out of nowhere. One that was executed while most of the world was asleep. A trade that has sent current players, former players, athletes from other sports all into a frenzy. Luka Doncic was the face of the Dallas Mavericks franchise, a 25-year-old player who was under contract for several more years, someone who had been first-team All-NBA 5 times, a man who had just carried the franchise to its first NBA Finals since 2011. Yet without any rumors, without even telling Luka himself, the Dallas Mavericks traded him to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis. This is the very first time two reigning All-NBA players have been traded for each other mid-season. In terms of shock value and nobody knowing anything beforehand, the AD-Luka trade is number one in NBA history. So why would Dallas do this? Any way that you frame it, you realize that it just doesn't make sense. Firstly, it has been confirmed now by multiple reports that Luka Doncic never asked for a trade. He never requested one. He never showcased any sort of disappointment with the franchise. And frankly, why would he? They had gotten him help in the form of Kyrie, drafted well picking up Derek Lively, and even brought in good role players like Gafford and PJ Washington. These moves, combined with Luka's normal magic, were the reason that Dallas had finally gone over the hump and made it to an NBA final. Previously, Luka had dragged them to a Western Conference final against the Golden State Warriors, but he didn't have enough help to get by them. In 2024 though, there was a Robin to his Batman, arguably one of the greatest secondary stars ever in Kyrie Irving. The two had wonderful chemistry both on and off the court. They played super well off each other. Now there was someone to create when Luka wasn't on the court, someone that could come in clutch if it wasn't Luka's night. Yet according to sources, the Dallas front office felt that they could not win a championship with Luka. Their GM, Nico Harrison, told ESPN that he believes that getting an all-defensive center and an all-NBA player with a defensive mindset gives them a better chance. He said, "We're built to win now and in the future." Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say that Luka couldn't have been better on the defensive end, especially against the Boston Celtics in the final. His poor defending was a major reason why the Celtics won that matchup. But these comments from Harrison, they're a joke. The Mavs team did not get better, especially not for the future. You just traded a star in his prime to rely on two players who have a history of missing significant playing time. AD and Kyrie are 31 and 33 respectively. What future are we talking about here? These guys are not going to get any better, not to mention that AD doesn't even like to play as the center. Don't get it wrong, it's a good pairing and they might make some noise in the playoffs, but you just lost the one guy who was responsible for your deep playoff runs. Luka Magic was the biggest reason why the Dallas Mavericks were contending. Kyrie, for example, has historically shown that he excels when he's the number 2 guy, not the number 1. AD is a monster two-way player, but he's not going to be able to replicate what Doncic was doing. He's not a creator. He's a very good defender that can also get you some buckets. You do not trade a perennial MVP candidate in his mid-20s under any circumstances, especially when the player himself never once asked to be traded. This guy was averaging 28, 8, and 8 for his career. He was not just an elite scorer, but an elite playmaker. He's the type of player that makes everyone around him better, not to mention he's one of the coldest players in the league in the clutch. Luka went through hell and back, bleeding and limping for Dallas. Look at previous series and how much Luka worked to get them the win. This is not some empty stats guy. This guy's a winner. I don't care if he's built a little fluffy. When he's on the court, he's a killer. Now let's say what Nico Harrison was saying is true, and Luka's lack of commitment on the defensive end and staying in shape are a big problem for the franchise. Why not tell the entire league that Luka is available and start a bidding war? If you truly believe that Luka Doncic could not help you win a championship, that every other team in the league would be at your doorstep giving you whatever assets they have. Like, did Dallas not realize that the Spurs would give him a ton of first round picks to be able to get Luka and pair him with Wemby? You don't think OKC would package together a good young player with a ton of picks? This is the part that is the most confusing about all of it. That instead of auctioning off Luka for the best possible package, Dallas goes and makes a deal without anyone knowing with the Lakers in the shadows. Seriously, nobody knew about this trade besides as Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison. Neither AD, LeBron, or Luka had a clue. LeBron reportedly was having dinner with his family when he got the news. So much for the Lil GM jokes. This guy didn't even know that his partner in crime was getting traded. You guys have to understand that this trade is so bad that the majority of people who saw the initial announcement thought that Shams was hacked. Because think about it, for decades, Dallas could never get a top free agent. They hadn't had a superstar since Dirk Nowitzki. Then they finally get a player who is at worst the third best player in the league. He loves the city and looked very happy. Then they ship him away for nothing. Reportedly, Harrison has tried to speak to Luka, but Luka has ignored all of his calls and voicemails. Yeah, good luck finding new players in free agency, buddy. The Lakers absolutely fleeced the Mavs. Now you can argue that the Lakers got slightly worse in the short term, because realistically their biggest issue was defending, and now they replaced their best defender, one of their few rim protectors, for another guy who is ball dominant like LeBron and who also isn't a good defender. But even then, that's why I said arguably, because we have seen Luka carry a far worse roster into a deep playoff run. So when he comes back, he might be so motivated that he goes crazy and we actually see the Lakers do better. I'm just saying the trade on paper doesn't make that much sense in the short term because the team got even worse defensively. In the long term though, the Lakers are absolutely set. It's hilarious. This franchise just has superstars fall into their lap. This is why when you see their fans make all those edits on Twitter, you can't even make fun of them because they know that at any point they can get the best for nothing. All the reports have indicated that Dallas offered Luka. The Lakers didn't even ask for him. I can even imagine the sparkle in Rob Pelinka's eyes when he was offered that trade. The Lakers went from Jerry West to Wilt Chamberlain to Baylor to Kareem to Magic to Shaq to Kobe. Had a brief window that they had nobody, then they get LeBron, and now they have Luka for the next 10 years. This was the perfect guy to get to prepare for LeBron leaving eventually. Because my guess is that's what this plan has been all along. They wanted to get the next guy to be the face of the Lakers, with LeBron obviously leaving within the next few years. Now LA just has to build around Luka, a guy who has shown time and time again that he gets even better in the postseason. And not just that, but the Lakers are getting a Luka with a chip on his shoulder. He is going to be mad, motivated by sheer revenge after what Dallas did to him. And when he's angry, he plays his best basketball. Look at what he's done against the Suns, the Clippers, Rudy Gobert. You do not want to be enemies with this guy. He has that Jordan mentality. He takes everything personally, let alone a backstab like what the Mavs just did to him. Because Dallas didn't just trade him, they tried to publicly humiliate him.
This is the worst moment in the history of my life. This is ridiculous.
It's out there now. They've been public about it, that they felt they couldn't win a title with Luka Doncic, the guy who had just brought him to their first NBA Finals since 2011. Instead of running it back with the same group of players that got you to the final, you decide to gut the entire franchise. The Mavs legitimately had like a 2-ish year window to win a ring. Now this immediately goes down as one of the worst trades in sports history. Like I said, there is no logical explanation for this trade. Even if you take the words of Harrison at face value, there is not one reason why they couldn't have gotten a better deal. Again, no disrespect to Anthony Davis, he's a fantastic player, one of the best two-way players in the league. But the reality is that he's on the older side. If Dallas don't end up winning a title in the next few years, they are cooked. And I don't think that AD elevates this team to another level. I think he's a great defender who makes Dallas better defensively, but they've lost all the magic that made the Mavs such a good team to begin with. Luka was the main reason why Dallas became contenders. That's why it was important to put guys around him that helped him, i.e. like someone like Kyrie to handle the ball handling and take some of the pressure off Luka. Then getting good 3-and-D wings to put around Luka to help him defensively and to spread the floor for him to do his thing. Now the entire pressure of the offensive load is on Kyrie Irving, because AD, he's a great player, but he can't play make. Fox, Butler, all disgruntled stars who wanted to be traded and their team stood tall. Meanwhile, the Mavs had a loyal superstar who wanted to be there and they traded him away for scraps without even asking him first. As good as Anthony Davis is, this is scraps. He's a great player, but what's stopping him from breaking down either this season or the next season, and now you're left with nothing. The Mavs traded Luka and basically called him fat on the way out. The other winner outside of the Lakers are the Hawks, because now their decision to trade Luka for trade won't ever be talked about. When NBA historians talk about Luka being traded, this is the moment that will be mentioned. Unless AD and Kyrie somehow win a title together, this was one of the worst trades ever made. We have never ever seen a superstar, a face of a franchise, be traded without that star requesting the trade. He was eligible for a supermax, and I very much doubt he would have not signed. And even in the scenario where, let's say, he would have rejected the extension, the Mavs would have had a whole year to find the right package for him in a trade. Everything about this move feels off, like there's some piece of the puzzle that isn't being shared. As time goes on, we might get more details because right now, the Lakers picked up a player that could be the next face of the NBA. In 2023, the Dallas Mavericks placed a statue of Dirk Nowitzki with the words "Loyalty never fades away" into it. 2 years later, they traded their loyal generational talent to the Lakers. To see just how good Luka was over the years for Dallas, you have to check out this video right here.